Okay, here we are, Jess, Kathleen, and Heidi with our midterm for IO 524. This is Heidi, and I'm going to present first. All right, ladies, do you know why? Do you know why you do the things you do? That's what we're going to talk about today, okay? Okay, so why ask why? There is a purpose in getting the clarity of our why. Okay, so today, to do this exercise, why should you do it? The reason you should do it is that very few people can clearly articulate why they do what they do. Sometimes we'll have some gut thoughts or say sort of why we might do things, but to clearly articulate our values is very important, because if we can do that, you can communicate what you believe, and if you can also demonstrate your natural strengths, that's what's going to make you stand out. So knowing your why, or your purpose, your cause, or your belief that drives you is very important for success. So by the end of this session with me, you're going to understand a beginning concept of the golden circle and how values activate your strengths and your behaviors. You're going to identify your core values. You will prioritize your values. We're also going to talk a little bit about where you see your values activating your behaviors. And you're also going to get a little assignment to take away. All right, you ready, ladies?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so now we're going to talk about Simon Sinek, who is a champion of this concept called the golden circle that involves the why, the how, the what. All right, so let's dive into this concept. This is going to explain it in the context of a company. All right, little delay there. We're getting going.
What makes some companies more successful than others? It's the way they think and communicate. Most companies start their story with telling you what they sell. Some will also tell you how their product is different. And then, nothing. Successful companies flip it around. They first tell you why they sell something, because they believe in healthy living. Then, how? By handpicking the most nutritious foods. Only then do they tell you what they sell. Fancy a bite? From why to how to what. That is Simon Sinek's golden circle. The effects: companies using the golden circle sell more products for a higher price, and people like to work for them. Why it works? Our brain is like a golden circle. The outer part does language ratio analysis, but the inner part is the one to actually take decisions. It does not respond to language and ratio. It responds to emotions, beliefs, dreams, to why. By communicating from the inside out, you get heard right where it matters, where decisions are being made. So, about to tell your story? Then start with the heart. Start with why.
All right. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely.
All right. Now, how often do we meet people and the first thing we say is, what do you do? Is that kind of our go-to? Do you guys kind of introduce yourself that way with your job?
Yeah. It used to be until, you catch on to this golden circle, but it's funny to see people still communicating from the what instead of the why.
Mm-hmm. It's very natural because the what is what we see, right? It's the easiest thing to talk about. What about you, Jess?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a natural go-to. What.
Right, exactly. All the things, all the tasks, all the things we have to get done, what our job title is. As a Gallup Strengths coach, I do a lot of work here with the how and really saying what are our talent filters that help us do anything that we're going to do. But at the core of this, what activates our strengths are our values, the why. And if we can start from here, from this heart, so to speak, and the why, then we can understand how that activates our unique strengths, and then how we apply that to do better and more successfully and with more ease our what. Okay, so what do you value? You ready to find out what your core values are?
Yeah.
All right, I need you to grab a pen or a pencil and some paper. You can just do it on a scratch piece of paper. It doesn't have to be fancy. And what you see here is a list of values. And this is, I use this in my Gallup Strengths Coaching, and so this is from Gallup organization, just for copywriting. And there's a name and then a description that goes with it. If you have any questions as you're going through it, feel free. But what I'm going to do is set our timer, and I'm going to give 3 minutes for you to read through the list, look through it, wrestle with it a little bit. But I don't want you to take too much time and get too stressed about it at all. But write down your 5 values that drive your behavior, that really resonate with you. Okay? And go. We'll have a little bit of silence, and that's okay while you do this.
And we're ranking them from 1st to 5th, Heidi?
Right now, you're just writing down your top 5. I know you've got to put you into practice.
Oh. Heidi, this is tough. I mean, it's blending like work behaviors and tasks and love, and it's hard.
Mm-hmm. It is very tough, and that wrestling that you're doing right now is really important because something will win out. So it's good. Do the work of wrestling.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm done. I'm done wrestling.
All right. Good. How about you, Jess? How you doing? You still have.
Keep probably
It's
one
okay.
way or another, but
You still have another minute if you need it.
I have a list of 5. I just keep wondering if I want to split them up, but it's okay.
All right. Well, if you both have a list of 5, that's okay. Let's just go with that because there is sort of a gut instinct to this. So now what I want you to do in the next 30 seconds is to rank them. 1 being what you say is your driving value, and then down to 5. They're all important to you, but if you had to rank them, what would they be?
See, and this is why we women have like 18,000 pairs of black shoes.
Very true.
There's a shoe for every day. Okay, I got mine.
Okay.
I cheated. I was working a little ahead on the last couple minutes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So, let's talk about it. So what I'd love for us to do is if you want to go up there and just click on your camera, I'm going to turn my camera on. And if you want to turn your cameras on while we have this discussion, we can see each other. All right. Now, as you see my screen, are you seeing all your faces too?
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if I can make that a layout a little different so you can see the question still.
Oh, I can see the question and you.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Just making sure. Okay. So did you find this activity difficult?
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't break a sweat, but it was hard to, it's like.
Yeah, what was difficult about it? What was hard?
Because some of them were so close, and other ones were like, I got down all of my A's and my B's and my C's, and then I got to, there's love. Well, I can't do it without love. So it was, some of them were so dramatically opposed. How do you choose?
Yeah. What about you, Jess? What felt difficult about it?
For me, it's like I read one thing and then my mind shifts to a certain situation, and then I read another one and my mind shifts to another situation. So it's hard for me to nail it down. Wait, these apply to that thing, but not to this thing. So which are the top ones overall,
Right. Yeah, and that wrestling with, okay, is it one situation or another? But sometimes you'll find one that comes together and be like, oh, but I can apply that to the whole situation. So what we're would you mind sharing what did you guys rank as your top number one?
Achievement.
Achievement. Okay. What did you say, Jess? I missed it.
Knowledge.
Knowledge. Okay. What I noticed for myself, so actually my top one is aesthetics, which might seem weird, but
not with the jacket you're wearing today, my dear.
So what I think is interesting and that I want to just point out is that there's a level of your interpretation of it, right? So achievement as a value is really important to you, Kathleen, but I might rate it, I might have achievement too, and it might look a little different. So for me, aesthetics is all about the beauty that comes from learning or from success. So I don't just limit it in my translation to just visuals, although I am an artist, so I do have a visual thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So how do you see that top value or any of your top 5 showing up in your life? Do you have any stories of where you see this?
Heidi. Okay.
Go ahead, Jess.
I was going to say, going off of what you just said too, like, okay, so my number one is knowledge, and what if it was, knowledge about aesthetics? Like it all ties into that.
Yeah.
But for me, I think when people ask me to like describe myself, like the first thing that always comes to mind is curiosity. Since I was a little girl, my eyes were always bulging out no matter where I went, like staring at everyone and absorbing things.
Uh-huh.
I'm just constantly reading and Googling, and I love learning more things. It drives me. So.
Yeah, definitely clearly see that. How about you, Kathleen? Where do you see it in your life with a story?
Oh, geez, especially with my job as a trainer, it's that achievement drives the rest of it. Jess, I had knowledge is 3 on mine. I have to combine my top 5 to get that achievement. So the achievement really is the end of the road, and that's not an achievement like it's not the recognition that was in that skill. It's the achievement I have accomplished this good thing that were true to these top 5 strengths.
Mm-hmm.
It's the culmination and the proof that those top 5 things existed.
Yeah. So what is interesting as a takeaway, I'm going to turn my camera off and take it back to the presentation just so that you guys
okay, I'll turn mine off too.
Won't be so distracted. So as you go through your week this week with this new awareness, you have those written down, you have them prioritized. I would encourage you to think of more stories, and I also encourage you to think of a friend or a colleague that you really trust and just commit to sharing your top 5 values with them this week. And ask them similarly, what are some stories? Where do you see this in me? And have a dialogue about it. So just in this moment, can you think of somebody? Can you name them that you think you'd like to? Yeah?
Heidi, can I ask you a question on this topic?
Yeah.
Now, the 3 of us, we're in the IO Psych program. So this really is near and dear to our hearts in some form or fashion. This is the language we speak. What does it look like when you have people that you do this with that aren't as on the bus as me and Jessica? Mm-hmm. What happens then?
Yeah.
Where do the wheels come off the cart for them and all this?
Yeah, well, and it's great that you asked me because I work with IT folks, right? So talk about people who can be very emotionally unaware and need an IO Psych person. Actually, this is incredibly transformative with the workforce that I'm in. And so I am a strengths coach, so I've been rolling out our strengths to them. And then I do this activity to help them name what they value, because everyone knows they have beliefs, right? They know they value something. But then when you do this activity and it helps give words for them, then I start hearing them talk with those words. And then with the awareness, they start seeing it. And then they can align that. It's important also to align your values. Do they match up with your company values? So that's an important place of engagement. So I do see it being very transformative, and people are just very hungry for this.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, except for the one we did in practice. Can I have a copy of this, please?
Absolutely. So if you enjoyed this, I'll definitely send this out to you guys. But we have about a minute left. What I'd love for you to do is take this poll. I'm a big believer in just doing it now because I hate to have things hanging over me. So if you look in your chat window, I've just sent you the poll. So if you click that link, it'll take you to 5 very quick questions. It is an anonymous poll, so when your results come back in, I won't see that it was Kathleen who said it or that Jess said it. So you can be totally honest, and it shouldn't take you more than a minute.
Well, you have a 50-50 shot of knowing it was one of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well, in a larger class.
I'll do it a couple times.
So I'll give you just a moment. Go ahead and do the poll. Click it, and you'll be done. And your only assignment this week is to share your values with a dear friend or colleague.
Hi, you might know this is me by some of the comments.
Okay. I know we're still recording, but I guess officially my time is over. But I guess if you tell me, Kathleen, that if we could connect how our values would translate into the gemstone of our cremation, that would be.
Oh, geez. Like which color? We're supposed to stay away from colors and infographics.
Right.
But that's true. It's so true in memorialization. What you value, you have to figure out what it is first before you can communicate it and pass it on.
Exactly. That awareness, that self-awareness then does so much to help our communications. So, all right. Well, thanks, guys, for being my guinea pigs. I'm going to go ahead and pass control over to Kathleen so you can get set up, making you the presenter.
Okay, hang tight.
Okay.
And are you with me, ladies?
Yep, I can see your screen.
Okay. Well, welcome, Group 1. We're going to talk about negativity in the workplace. And more specifically, we're going to have an agenda and a learning objective of learning what negativity is, what it isn't, the science of it, and then we're going to talk about our takeaway, what we learned and how we can apply this. And in the chat, just like Heidi did, I'll go ahead and cut and paste this poll for you to do, and I absolutely want to hear some honest critique and feedback. I've set it up also with the start, stop, and continue format, so when you see that phrase, you'll understand that from the notes from class in the assignments. It's really good. I've used that a lot too, where you tell someone what they should stop, what they should start, and what they should continue. Have you guys done that format before in anything? Start, stop, continue?
I haven't actually, but it's a good approach.
Yeah, and I just want to explain it before you just saw those words, start, stop, continue, then you'll understand that on one of the questions. All right, so Webster's defines negativity as the expression of criticism of or pessimism about something. So Heidi and Jess, I'm going to ask you both differently. What's the difference between complaining like negativity and venting? Heidi?
My conventional thought was that complaining was just venting without a solution. Venting was sort of a allowable thing just to get something off your chest. But
yeah, okay, good. That's what we hear all the time. And Jess, what's your definition? What's your difference?
My definition was venting, getting stuff off your chest. Doesn't necessarily.
Okay. Jess, I can hardly hear you, but I think I heard that it's, again, just getting something off your chest just to get it out of the system.
Yep.
Okay, and that's, when I do this class, it's really what everybody says. Well, complaining is when you just sort of are griping and moaning with no solution, and venting is you're just having a friendly dump session on somebody, and that's exactly, what it is. For this presentation, I want you to understand when we say griping, that is the street form of the negativity through words, which is absolutely contagious, and it doesn't have to be all day. it can be just a mishmash of as little as 30 minutes of any kind of complaint, venting, negativity, even seeing something. So, do we like to complain, Heidi? Do you like to sort of gripe and moan sometimes?
Yes.
I know, especially to my mom. Jessica, what about you?
Yeah, I think we all have our moments.
We do. We do. Now, do we like to hear the complaints and the gossip and about who he did what and she said what?
Sometimes.
Depending on the topic, right? We like to hear it when it's about someone we don't like. Yeah.
Right.
Now, let me ask you a bigger question. Have you ever thought about, before this presentation, do others like being around us when we complain and vent and or are negative?
Well, the people who really love me have to handle it.
Yeah. Jess, how about you? Did you ever think about it that way?
Probably not, because it's going to foster some negative energy.
Yeah. And it's fun to get a bunch of people in a room, and usually the classes are like 20 to 30 people big. And you know there's always the complainer in the group. And I'll ask everybody, are you the complainer in the group? And they'll all say, no, no, no. And I said, okay, without rolling eyes or pointing, is the complainer of this team in this room right now? And they all go, oh my God, and the points and the hidden points and the eye roll. And it's funny how the complainer never knows they're a complainer. And I say this from personal experience. I used to be one of those complainers until someone plopped down this article to me, which is one of the sources in this, and said, Kathleen, you're the complainer. And I went, oh my goodness. So it's self-awareness is key, just like Heidi was saying. Now, here's something cute that I found. Complaining is like vomiting. You feel better, but the people around you feel worse. And I want to try to bring through on this presentation the nuances between venting and complaining, because that's really where the rubber hits the road. We sort of all know what negativity is, but when it softens its edges, like we said in the last presentation, venting is really complaining in a prom dress, we start seeing that it's the same thing. And I want you to consider this statistic. About 70% of Americans say they work with someone that's always griping. And that means beyond that 30 minutes. And about 67% of that 70 say that it negatively impacts their own productivity. And now, when's the last time specifically, Heidi, that you had someone come into your world and just dump on you at work?
This morning.
This morning?
Yes.
How'd you get out of it?
I was on a phone call and I did a little redirecting, and then fortunately the call ended, and I was glad. Yeah. Did you start feeling the heart rate go up and you're just eye rolling and you're like, oh my God, please, not this early? Yeah. Jess, what about you? When's the last time that someone sneezed on you with a bunch of negativity?
Well, last night on the phone with one of my friends.
There's always that one friend that keeps breaking up with her boyfriend and asking you, what should I do? And you keep telling her and she keeps doing the same thing. So that's a little bit of an insanity. All right, so what does all this mean? So what? So what people complain? So what that what's going on? It's a big deal. It's not just complaining and venting and negativity. There's some scientific things going on here in the brain that absolutely has such a negative impact in our brains, our cognitive abilities, and our health. So I'm going to start to propose to you that being exposed to negativity makes you fat, dumb, and depressed. And hopefully I'm going to prove it to you. So maybe we can react a little different when someone's complaining to us so we can protect ourselves. And maybe when we start being negative and venting to someone else, we sort of go, uh-oh, I don't want to be contagious to them. So we know what these two little things are here in the brain, right, ladies? The hippocampus. And hippo is from the Greek root horse, because it's shaped like a little seahorse. This is a cool little image of a seahorse. This is a cool little image of an actual hippocampus that was taken out of a brain. Sort of looks like a little alien thing, right? And the hippocampus is the neural basis of emotion. It's the limbic system. And this harkens back to Heidi's why and Simon Sinek. The limbic system has no capacity for language. And neuroscientists, as we know, because we're in the IO field, they're able to measure stimuli and the effects on the brain, including long gripe sessions and negativity. And when we say negativity, we don't mean just phrases and complaining about somebody. We mean even words. Look at these words. Hate, wait, damn, delays, nightmare, awful, sucks, waiting, fail, failure. So words are critical. Negative words also stimulate the areas of the brain associated with perception and cognitive functioning. So it's very clear that constant exposure to complaints will reinforce negative thinking. Again, it's contagious. And here's the key point. Your behavior is likely to change to fit those negative perceptions. Someone complains to us, drags us down, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially the chronic complainers. And that's called being an emotional companion. And we've seen these names before. They're very familiar to us in our IO field. There's some research done by Robert Sapolsky. He's a professor of neurology and neuroendocrinology at Stanford University. He said that, yes, the hippocampus is one of the few regions, luckily, able to produce new neurons. The message is not, hey, don't worry about it, it can reproduce. The message is, unfortunately, the hippocampus is also highly sensitive to negative stimuli. We forget that the brain acts more like a muscle than we know. We think it's this protective thing and it's a mystery, but it's not. It is absolutely susceptible to very little impulses. So when it comes to problem solving, this gentleman named Blake said hearing negativity actually peels away the neurons in the brain's hippocampus. We knew that. And we also know that that's the part of your brain that's associated with problem solving. We knew that. So what we didn't know, and here's his scientific analysis, basically it turns your brain to mush. And it's true. Repeated bouts of this griping absolutely causes the hippocampus to shrink, resulting in declines in cognitive function. And I want you to pay close attention to this next phrase, including the ability to retain information and adapt to new situations. Those two things are critical in our business of sales. Without that, we go nowhere. So Heidi and Jessica, were you aware that not only did it decline the cognitive function, but also being exposed to negativity makes you forgetful and makes you less adaptable to change?
Yeah, it's interesting because this is what we talk about with the positive psychology and the strengths, is that very often we approach things with the what's wrong and what's the negative, and that to tell people it actually shuts down their brain, and now you're showing me all the proof that of that, instead of asking what's right and how do we open it up. So it's great research.
You know what, once upon a time, I remember 20 years ago, smoking was cool, and no one knew about secondhand smoke. No one knew about lead poisoning and asbestos. But this negative stuff, it's absolutely this new cancer in organizations. And we think it's cool to be negative and to bite the hand that feeds us and to backbite other departments. And it's absolutely not. It's not okay anymore. And I'm hoping to give you two just a little clarity to be stronger, to be almost like these little superheroes of combating negativity, because it's not neutral. Either what you're saying is helping someone, or what you're saying is hurting someone, and those negative things hurt. Now, as a bonus, so not only does it chew away at our ability to retain, to remember, to adapt, and to think, it also raises the cortisol levels in stress, and therefore, we know what cortisol does, it makes us fat. So here's my little infographic on the cortisol excites the amygdala, then it magnifies into us needing more good stuff like ice cream, then we eat the ice cream, and then it goes directly to our bellies. So there is truth to why we reach for the ice cream when we have a breakup. So putting it all together, 30 minutes of rumor mongering or griping, it kills the hippocampus, so you lose cognitive functioning and problem-solving abilities. You can't retain info, you can't adapt to new situations, you get dumb, depressed, forgetful, and fat. Anybody want to add anything else that it does? Like reduces organizational commitment?
right?
Increases intention to leave.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And when I was looking for more up-to-date sources, I checked out Google Scholar, and look what I found. So whereas we thought, hey, no, complaining, that's just something we do, venting, that's just something we do, I want to challenge you to just look at it differently, because it does have a very more than equal and opposite reaction from when we put it out there. So I hopefully you find yourselves lucky at least knowing how to protect yourselves from it. You may not be able to have someone stop complaining to you, but we're going to talk about that. I want to ask you, Heidi, first, are you the venter or the ventee usually?
I can be both. I mean, I think there's kind of an equal share of I hear a lot from people, and then I have some select few people that I trust and will allow myself to vent to. So.
Okay. And Jessica, what about you?
I have to agree with Heidi, and I think it depends on who I'm talking to. There are certain people who definitely like to vent to me more and don't want to hear what I have to say, and I think it goes the other people.
And you know what, that must be tough to be the go-to, because it does weigh on you. Those words are not invisible, and they're not weightless. So
well, there is a mute phone.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? The two of you seem very capable of turning to someone and go, look, I've had enough. You need to stop for a second. So I not just want to talk about your takeaway, but Heidi, what do you do to someone that is giving you more complaints and negativity than you want to hear? How do you stop them from doing that to you?
Well, there's the classic avoidance that you can do, but then something I also do with my kids is called connect to redirect. So there is a place, sometimes people do just need to be heard. So often I will just say back to them what they're saying to me. I'll say, you sound really angry, you seem really frustrated, you know, and then try to direct that. Or I'll give an example of when I'm really frustrated, I try to take a walk and just calm down. And so I try to give some redirection.
So you're focusing on the fix instead of just untangling the spaghetti mess.
Well, I think at first it's more people feeling like they're heard, the connecting, to say, you sound really angry, just saying it back to them what they're giving back at you. Sometimes that triggers awareness. I've noticed with my kids, all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, okay, someone heard me. I can stop venting now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Jess, what about you? What do you do to stop people from putting some toxins into your universe?
I think I say to people when they're complaining, well, why do you feel that way? And really getting them to talk it out. And then when I hear it, trying to turn it around from them and come at a different angle. Well, but what about this? And kind of challenging them almost, instead of being so negative, kind of getting some of the positive, bringing that into the picture.
That's awesome. That's good. So you're not feeding into it. All right. So Heidi, what's your takeaway from all this? What are you going to do differently, if anything, going forward?
Well, I definitely thought venting and complaining were different. So I think to see that they're the same thing, it helps me to be a little bit more aware, to be careful about what I'm classifying as venting.
Yeah. And listen, when the rubber hits the road, I know that when we vent, we preface that like, look, I just need you to hear me just a second and I'm good. And usually venting does have a solution, whether it be an actionable solution or the solution was just to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not stuck in that. Jessica, what about you? What's your takeaway?
Well, besides watching my cortisol levels to make sure get fat. No, but I think just, and I already knew this to some extent, but bringing awareness to people about their own negativity. And I think what you said was interesting. Like, you didn't know that you were the negative person. Someone had to say, hey, you're the negative one, actually. So some people need to hear.
Jessica, did I just step on your sentence?
I don't think so.
Okay, awesome. All right, ladies, I am going to cut and paste my poll in the chat, but here's the sources I went to, just to give you a little eyeball on that. And within the chat, I'm going to go ahead and get that in there, and just whenever you can, if you can take that poll, I'd greatly appreciate it. And I am done. Ladies, anything else? Any questions? Or can we hand it over to Jessica?
Yeah, great job. Very nice job. Enjoyed that, Kathleen.
Thanks for participating.
All right, I will go ahead and change now, make Jess the presenter. All right, so Jess, you should see that now. Yeah, everybody's doing a great job. I mean, I guess that, and then we got to see our practice run, but.
Well, I'm filming on Camtasia, I hope. So just in case.
Thank you. Appreciate the backup.
Yeah. I'm here for you, baby.
All right, we ready?
We are ready.
Okay. So today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to run and interpret a correlation in SPSS. So I want to start off by asking you guys how familiar you are with SPSS, how much time you've spent working in there, if you maybe want to rate yourself based on the scale I've created.
Jess, I used to be a beginner. That was like a year and a half ago with the class. I'm a novice now. I can't say that I remember anything. I regressed to a 1.
I would probably echo that sentiment, that I felt like I got some learning, and now that I haven't used it, I'm probably back at 1.
I know how to spell it.
Totally, and I understand that. But the good news is that you will be able to run a correlation and interpret the correlation by the end of this training. And I think that once you walk it through step by step, you don't necessarily need to have had a bunch of prior experience in SPSS. So what is SPSS exactly? Why is this training important? And what is this tool that is SPSS? Well, SPSS is a tool that takes large quantities of data and performs analyses that help us make decisions. So maybe your boss wants to know if there's a correlation between extroverted personalities and leadership skills. Well, SPSS is going to take all that data that we've gathered from administering tests, and it's going to give us the answers. And from there, we can draw conclusions and make decisions by interpreting SPSS results. So I went ahead and I created this fun little cartoon video that's going to briefly go over our learning objectives for this training. Let me make this full screen for you guys. There you go. That's what we're going to be covering today.
Jessica, I just love that little video.
Oh, thank you. I'll have to give you the name of it because it's not in it.
Yeah, nice job on creating it.
Thank you. So these are the 3 phases of running a correlation in SPSS. First, you're going to go, once you have the SPSS application open, on your SPSS toolbar, you're going to go to the File tab. You'd scroll down to Open, and you'd select Data. From there, you're going to get a pop-up box that you can see on the right-hand side. And today we're going to be working in the test validation and performance appraisal scores data set. So you can just select that and open that right up. And this is the box that'll come up next. I highlighted, as you can see, where the measures are, how these are set to scales. And all you need to know is, for the purpose of this training, that our variables are set to scales, and that can be indicated by the little symbol not to scale. Okay, so now it's time to run the correlation. We're on to phase 2. Yes. Okay. So once again, you're going to go back to the SPSS toolbar at the top. And under there, you're going to select Analyze. From there, you can scroll down to Correlate. And from Correlate, you can select Bivariate. Now, once you select that, you're going to get another pop-up box that you can see on the right-hand side. And today we're going to run a correlation between the two variables, learning orientation success and extroversion. So as you can see, I already moved them over into the right-hand side box. I selected them from the left-hand side, used that arrow in the middle to move them over. And directly below that, there are 3 different things in this box to take note of. The correlation coefficients, you can see Pearson's is automatically selected by SPSS, and that's the one we'll be using. Test of significance, two-tailed, is automatically selected by SPSS, which is also what we'll be using. And flag significant correlations, once again, SPSS does all the work for us. So just make sure all of that is in order, and we are ready to go. Okay, so once we press OK, this is the box that's going to pop up about the correlations. And there are 2 things that we are mainly concerned with, and that is the significance value and the Pearson's correlation value. So what is this? Well, if we look over at the significance value, we can see that we got a 0.000, and for the Pearson's correlation value, we ended up with a 0.652. So for right now, those are numbers, but what does that mean? What are we doing with this? Okay, so time to interpret this. So what the significance number tells us, it relates to the significance level. Is this relationship between the 2 variables that we are working with, is it statistically significant or not? So the real question is this number less than 0.01? And in this case, yeah, it was actually. We got 0.000, which obviously is less than 0.01. Had we gotten 0.5, had we gotten 0.3, anything like that, the answer would have been no, it's not less than 0.01. So the variable relationship would not be statistically significant, and we really wouldn't care what we were doing because it wouldn't matter. Does all that make sense so far, guys? Any questions?
I'm good. I'm following.
Good.
Okay. Just want to make sure. So, okay, we understand what the significance level is, and what is the Pearson correlation number? So Pearson's correlation coefficient in statistics is written as R, and this can either be a positive or a negative number. In our case, it was a positive number. We got 0.652. So we understand that's a positive number. We understand that it's 0.652, but still, what does this mean? Well, R tells us how strong the relationship is. So the goal is to get the number as close to positive 1 or as negative 1 as much as possible, as much as the data at least tells us. A positive relationship between 2 variables is where one variable increases as the other one increases. The same would be for if one decreased, the other one decreased as well. So in other words, they move in tandem. A negative correlation would be the opposite though. So as one variable were increasing, the other would decrease or vice versa. So they do not move in tandem. And as you can see in the graphs for the positive one, as on the X value bar, as that increases, it increases on Y. And for the negative graph, you can see that as X increases, Y decreases. Okay, so what is the real world application for this? When are we going to use it? When would this be important on the job? Does anyone want to use some examples of times where they could think that this may come up in their job, or when their boss may ask them to possibly run a correlation based on 2 variables?
Yes, what affects retention?
Yeah, exactly.
Like more training, does that mean more retention?
Yeah, we've been looking at engagement and, how does that affect turnover rates?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of that is really important. That's data that we're going to want to know because it's going to also possibly help us make decisions. So some of the examples I came up with or put on here, a positive correlation, an example of that would be high scores on a job knowledge test being associated with high job performance ratings. And that makes sense, right? Because someone who does well in a job knowledge test is probably going to get high job performance ratings. So that would have a strong positive correlation. And to look at a negative correlation, an example could be low scores on a job satisfaction survey being associated with high turnover rates. And that also makes sense, right? Because if you're not satisfied with your job, there may not be a good chance that you're going to stay in that job for a long time. And then both of these could also be seen the opposite way. So, low scores on a job knowledge test being associated with low ratings, or high scores on a job satisfaction survey being associated with low turnover rates. So I know I kind of spelled it all out for you, but I think it'd be good to kind of walk through it so you can see me do it. So it makes sense when you're able to open SPSS up in the future to run a correlation. So let's take a look at that. So the SPS application is open. You go to File, Open, scroll down to Data. Once again, we scroll over and we are looking at the Test Validation and Performance Appraisal Score data set. I already have that open actually, so you would click Open typically, but I'm going to cancel out right here. And as we noted before, under the measures, all of these are scales and they have that little symbol next to them to let us know that. Now you go up to Analyze, come down to Correlate, and select by Variate. Now I already have the variables on the right-hand side. I already selected and put them over because we have a long list on the left-hand side. But you can take whatever from the left-hand side and move it to the right-hand side using that arrow. So you can see I can put learning orientation back to the left-hand side, back to the right-hand side, but we want it on the right-hand side if that's what we're working with. So once again, we're looking at correlation coefficients. Pearson's is selected, two-tailed is selected, and we've got the significant correlations flag. And we're ready to go. So the correlation box is going to pop up automatically, and that is what we're taking a look at. And we can see under Pearson's correlation that we got a number of 0.652, which was the positive correlation, and that was a significant relationship between the two variables because we got 0.000, which is less than the p-value of 0.01. So that's me walking through the process of SPSS for you guys. Is there anything that doesn't make sense or any questions I can answer for you guys to make it clear?
No, it's definitely clearer than it ever has been for me before.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. Maybe you should start teaching this.
I know. I think you need to put this out on a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe future as a stats professor. We'll see.
So the only thing, if we wanted to test two different relationships, we would just pick two from the left box and put it in the right box.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That data set happened to have a lot of variables in it, but those were the two that I was interested in looking at.
Hey, Jess, when it comes to this, do you find that the people that need to see it, which are the managers and, the upward on the chain, that's all they're looking for is a very, I don't want to say dumbed down version, but a very this to that kind of comparison?
No. I think it can get much more complicated, and when it's been taught to me, it's been fairly simple, but I understand that on the job, I'm sure it would get far more complicated. And we are just talking about correlations today, but there are so many other functions that SPS covers that are a little bit more complicated that you may have to report on, like multiple regression and factor analysis and all these big, crazy, scary things that are a lot more complicated and take a lot more, it's more open to interpretation as well. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting to look at. I enjoy, obviously, messing around with SPSS and figuring that stuff out, but that would definitely not be as easy and straightforward to teach to you guys. So
yeah.
Yeah, so these were the learning objectives that we set out today. Opening up a data set in SPSS, running the correlation in SPSS, and then being able to interpret correlation in SPSS. So once again, if there are any questions, feedback, I hope that you guys feel confident in your skills of being able to do this in the future. What do you think?
I think so, because I understand the big point of it now.
Yeah.
I have a path. So thank you.
I appreciate how you simplified it. And if it ever gets complex, I'm coming to you to do my analysis.
Yeah, Jess, I'll see you in DC soon.
That's
Absolutely. Come to me. I'd love to be your guru.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you. And then, so if you were still confused for some reason, or if there's anything that you want to reference back in the future, I pulled some YouTube videos for you guys and some step-by-step guides that break it down very similarly to how I did. And if you were faced with something like multiple regression or factor analysis or any of those crazy things, you could definitely look it up on YouTube. Plenty of people have recorded themselves doing this very similarly to me. So YouTube's a really great source. And
thank you, Jess. Thank you very much.
please take my survey. Let me know what you guys think and how I did. Happy to teach you guys. Thank you for listening to me. I hope it wasn't too dry for you.
No, it's good.
Not at all.
Hey, would you be okay to put it in that chat window so we can do a direct click to it?
Absolutely. I will copy and paste that.
All right, great job, group 1. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Hold on. Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, perfect.